Welcome to Success in Business. I'm Marty Moak, Member and Guest Services Manager for the Greater Burlington Partnership. Today, our presenter is Sam Boyer, CEO of Cure Business Solutions. Sam founded Cure Solutions in Southeast Iowa 25 years ago and specializes in business IT and security solutions. Cure prides themselves as being the largest locally owned IT service in Southeast Iowa. Hometown service, no account managers or Zoom meetings with people hundreds of miles away. Although they work with every industry, they specialize in the financial and manufacturing sectors. Please welcome Sam Boyer.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Hi, everybody. This is Sam Boyer with Cure Solutions, like he said. I'll go a little bit about our background before we get into the presentation. Like he said, we were founded in '98. We're the largest IT company locally owned in Southeast Iowa. We work on everything from servers, Office 365, now Microsoft 365, phone systems, Xerox, copy print. We do security assessments, disaster recovery, planning, and there's quite a bit more. So the agenda today was the introduction, and we're just going to go over high-level overview of cybersecurity. This is like a 10-hour webinar, shrunken down into an hour. So I can't talk about everything, but I'm just going to touch on everything briefly. So we're going to go over the current state of the industry. We're going to review the biggest threat to your network today, and top 5 things every business knows to prevent a security breach. Also go over the cybersecurity insurance gotchas that they have on how they can get out of a claim. So, state of the industry, we'll go over the types of the most popular types of attacks. There's quite a few more, but these are the most common. A virus is just when you click on something, it downloads a file, it infects your computer. Your antivirus will block it or maybe not, and it will do physical harm to your computer. This has been around since the 90s or 80s, so that's a pretty common threat. Phishing is a relatively new thing in the last 10 years, where someone will send an email claiming they're someone, but they're not really that person. They are just faking the email and saying they're maybe the CEO, and they want you to of your company, and they want you to gift cards or change the payroll information for an employee or something like that. Then we have insider threats or even outsider threats, like if you hire an IT company or a rogue employee internally does something. Those are a real issue, just to make sure that you monitor internal and external people who are accessing your network remotely. And then the biggest one in the news is ransomware. So everyone's familiar with that, I'm sure. Your computer will get infected with malware or a virus, or just somebody hacking on your network. We'll encrypt all of your documents, all of your computers with a very long encryption key, and you have to pay them a certain amount of money, and hopefully they give you the decryption key and they leave your network as it was. Usually that's not the case. They'll come back 6 months later and make you pay more because they know you'll pay. So anyway, the point of this webinar is to just plan about, it's not if, basically not planning if not if, but when the cybersecurity event might happen on your network, and to mitigate your risks, your clients, your customers, your employees, just the general. So just some basic stats that, these are give or take 10% or 20%, but 42% of small businesses have experienced a cyber attack within the last year. And then this just goes over 70% of the businesses are concerned about cyber attacks in the next year, and 72% have already implemented some cybersecurity measures to mitigate the risk or prevent the risk, help prevent the risks. There is no one stop. Everything's gonna fix it. There's no guarantee. But I'm gonna go over some things that you should do on your network to limit your risk. If you have any questions, you can just use the chat and on as we go. Reporting requirements. So if you do get infected, there's been several people infected or hacked or whatever throughout Southeast Iowa, but you don't hear about them in the news because they're not required to report. These institutions are required to report. Any bank basically with the Fed Reserve or even a state bank, HIPAA, the HHS, most government entities are required to report. And this means reporting to their clients, citizens, customers, or publishing it in the newspaper. If you have CMMC, that's for manufacturing, or PCI compliance that you have to comply with, then there's some reporting requirements there. And some things that some of the businesses don't recognize, the attorney generals basically as a whole have gotten together and created a requirement for the local states. So like the state of Iowa has a requirement that if you have 500 of your clients that live in the state of Iowa that were compromised, meaning their credit card information, their social security number, their date of birth, things like that, PHI on a medical sense, but any type of personal identifiable information was breached, accessed, viewed, encrypted, anything like that, then you need to report that to the Iowa State Attorney General. And the same thing with Illinois. I just checked Iowa and Illinois, but it's pretty common across the entire U.S. CISA also requires a reporting of 50. So if you reach 50 individuals breached, you have to report to them. When you report to them, that becomes public record. So it's just, I'm just basically putting all that out there. Is a lot of people have not reported because they're not required to, so you don't really know what's going on, but there's a lot more going on in Southeast Iowa that you're not aware of, because there's the loss of reputation when this does happen. So they try to limit that as much. So these are just a couple businesses that we are aware of. None of our customers have been impacted, a loss of data or client breach or anything like that. But we're aware of a couple just locally, and those are the losses or the ransom for those businesses. So I'll keep going. Like I said, it's not just the big companies; it's also the smaller ones. The only reason why you see them in the news, Keokuk, City of Keokuk had a breach a while ago where their accountant clicked on an email and all of the W-2s went out to some hacker. So they had to protect all of their employees, and that was 125 employees, I believe. So that obviously got press information because they had to announce it. Buffalo County Mental Health is the same type of situation that they were breached. And then the big ones, Iowa Medicaid, 200,000 people were affected. So it's not just the big ones, but there's also little ones, and there are some that most that you don't know about because they're just not required to report at this time, or they're under that threshold. So what you want to do is just make sure you just think about where all your data is. Some people aren't really 100% aware of where all of your data is. If you have Microsoft 365 and you're using Teams chat, there's sensitive information in Teams, storing information in the cloud with OneDrive, email, everything under the Microsoft basically umbrella. Then you've got your line of business applications. So if you host everything locally on a server, let's say you have a server that runs QuickBooks, you have a server that runs Sage accounting, that's all physically located in your office. But then you can also do QuickBooks online, or you can do your for insurance industry, they have Applied. It's a program that you can either host locally or host in the cloud. But that's just information that you need to know needs to be secure. And so if you host it remotely, you have to watch their company, that company that you're hosting it with, to make sure that they notify you if there's a breach. Offsite backups, again, if you're backing up offsite, is it secure? Is it safe? And are you monitoring them for breaches? Backups, is your local backup backed up offsite? And is your cloud data backed up locally? So if you store everything in the cloud, that does not come with a backup. It's not, that's only one location to store things. If Microsoft were to go away or they get hacked, all of that information is vulnerable to data loss. Important also to back up the cloud as well as locally. Back up locally, it's important to get that data offsite in case you have a fire or a flood or something like that. When you test your backups, are they fully restored? So do you boot the backups up and make sure they're actually functional, or do you just wait for the green check mark and trust that? Usually that's okay, but we've seen often when you trust that green check mark that it says complete every night, and then you wouldn't need to go rely on it. It doesn't actually work, or you weren't backing up everything. Make sure your backups are encrypted. So even if you do store your backups, let's just say on Azure or Amazon Cloud or Microsoft, if they have a rogue employee there, they can't access your data. And are you backing up your data on your server only, or is your entire network backed up, meaning your desktops? A lot of people think that if there's a policy in place, store your data on the server or on the cloud, everyone 100% applies with that policy. And usually that's not the case. We have many clients of ours that when they have a computer fail, there's data loss because they stored things on their local machine when they shouldn't have. So we've just taken the approach to back up the local machines, just so we don't at risk. So that's just something to keep in mind. Talking about that topic, I guess the single biggest threat on your network is your employees. Definitely your employees. Without employees, you wouldn't really need to secure anything because there's no one there clicking on it, clicking on links, files. You would just need a firewall, and you'd be done. So basically, what we recommend, we still recommend doing antivirus, firewall, spam filtering, all this other security. For sure, you need to do the normal IT security, but we really try to hone in on the employee and give them the training that they need to have to prevent any breach, because they're the first line of defense. If you buy a deadbolt, a window lock, a keypad, a security system, all of that information, if you put all that on your house and your employee opens the door, unlocks everything and opens the door, then they're going to get right in. So we really focus in on the cyber awareness training. So what we do is we do weekly employee phish testing. So we actually send emails to our customers, and they actually look like spam, but when they click on them, it reports back to us and tells us that they did that, so they know that they're actually failing on our test. So we would prefer to catch them on a test than the real thing, and that gives us the opportunity to do strict reporting guidelines. Very, very important to have strict reporting guidelines that they're required to report within 2 minutes. That's our guideline. or immediately to report to IT if there's any type of strange behavior. If they clicked on something and they think they shouldn't have, even if it's 4:59 and they get off work at 5, they must call IT. Then IT has orders or things that they do when they get the call, but basically the standing request is never shut off your computer, have them clearly report what they did, what they saw, and after the reporting is done, then to unplug the network cable. And for some of the odd novice users, they don't really know what the network cable is in the back. They may unplug the power cable. So we sometimes will label it with pink duct tape or pink electrical tape. So we just tell them, look for the cable with the pink electrical tape and pull that. Very important not to shut off the computer, because that is really required for forensics analysis. So if there was a breach and we need to hire a computer forensics firm, or if we need to go into in-depth research, all of that data could be lost if the computer is off. That's why we encourage the user not to shut the computer off. We may shut the computer off if we decide that it is a high threat or something like that, but the main thing is to contact IT within 2 minutes of the. So one of the questions was, what do we use for phish testing? We had a product we did use prior, but we're currently moving everybody over to a product called Breach Secure Now. We had another product for I don't know, 5 or 6 years that we were using for employee training or phish testing, but we're moving to a product called Breach Secure Now. Oh, and then also positive reinforcement. So it's very important that when they do report to you, not to admonish them or scold them or punish them or write them up or say you were a bad person, because we don't want them to be afraid to contact us, because then that will just encourage them to hide this and say, oh, probably nothing happened, or anything like that. And then we're looking at a major security breach in a week from now if a hacker did get in and they did infiltrate the system. And that's why it's very important to respond quickly and accurately and get all of the information and give them positive reinforcement and kudos for calling us and reporting that they may have clicked on something. So basically the main thing to do to prevent a security breach, I did say there was 5, but the big one is the cybersecurity training, and that's what I was just talking about. This is a quick video of the Breach Secure Now system. We'll go through it very quickly. It works like a credit score. So if you make, it works just like a credit score. So if you make your payments on time and you don't click on emails, then your credit score goes up. If you click an email, or if you reply to an email or something like that, your credit score goes down. Anything under 630 is a security risk to the organization, and it actually gamifies this solution, or gamifies this training, so people try to get their score higher. Because you can see down here on the right, you can see all of the employees and what their score is. So I see employees fighting over getting to the top. The ways to get higher is to do micro quizzes, and they take like 5 minutes, and that includes the quiz and the training. So it's very quick training. So you can edit your profile. That's automatically, I think, 100 points if you edit your profile. But the main thing is they got to keep doing it, because if you don't keep on this, your score will eventually go down. So basically, there's quizzes, there's security training, there's micro quizzes, and then there's the phish testing that we do on a weekly basis. So if they fail on a phish, a fake email like this LinkedIn email, their score will drop about 200, 300 points. And that's if you don't make a payment on your credit card, it's going to drop. Your credit score may drop, but they can still get it up by doing their. So it's a very fun system to do with clients. So this is basically I had to hide. This is actually a real client. So this is basically an overview on a management level, how they're doing. And they're doing pretty good. Their score has actually gone up in the last month. This is the overall company score. This client has about 120 employees. And then these are the names of the employees. They don't have to actually put their real name. They could put fake names in there so that, you know, they don't have the negativity. Some people don't want to put their name on there. This company, all of their employees, for some reason, want their name at the top. I'm assuming it's because they're really high score. 787 on a credit score, on a financial credit score, is really tremendous. So she is doing a very, very good job. And then there's, on the other side, there's people that aren't doing such a good job. So those people need to motivate it a little bit and make sure they do their training. So at 350, that's the default score. So we know that these users have not done any of their training. There's a possibility they're no longer there, or they're on vacation or something like that. We just implemented this within the last 2 months of this organization, and they were our first customer because we were testing. So there's a possibility they just haven't logged in. But anyway, it's very, very powerful. At Cure Solutions, any of our Cure Complete clients, also we make a drawing at the end of the year who has the highest score the most, and we give them the opportunity to go to a theme park of their choice that includes a hotel stay or Airbnb for up to 4 days, round trip tickets, all expenses paid basically to Disney World, Vegas, or Branson. And that's for the top employee customer wide. So we really try to give positive reinforcement on this and motivate them to take the employee training. In addition, it's required because their employer's telling them to do it. But again, we just want to gamify it a little bit. And other employers have done $50 gift cards on a monthly basis, you know, at a local business, top employee. So like this person here would get a $50 gift card at the end of this month. She's the highest. But regardless, Cure Solutions, if you're a full Cure Complete client, they have the option to win one of these. And this is client-wide, so it's not one customer, one employee per client. That's client-wide, the best employee client-wide at the end of it. The second thing is to do managed detection and response. So this basically is a product that it's called Blackpoint. It's a product that we recommend to detect lateral spread and just strange behavior going on in the network. So if Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Photos starts transferring a bunch of information, and then there's data going to China, administrator accounts getting created, there's unusual encryption, like full disk encryption, or things like that. They basically watch every single thing on the network. And this is not us. This is someone that all they do is they just watch what's going on in the network. And if they notice too many unusual behaviors, they'll generate an alert to us and contact us and or you. And if there's no response, they will shut the network down. They have the option to do that until they receive a response. So this is one little step you can take to prevent a breach. Because when someone clicks, that's considered basically 0 day, day one. Someone clicks on a link, that's not really the time where there's a breach. It's after they've been there for a week or 2 or 3, and they've really done some research on your network and know the pain points and know like they go and find credit card information or whatever. So we really want to get them on between day 2 and 4. That's where really all of the bad stuff happens. That's where we prevent a lot of the intrusions. So there's different layers of security. First, it's the security products that you have on your network, your antivirus, your malware detection, and your firewall. Then there's the employee training if something does get through to the employee. And then there's the MDR. Kind of out of order, I think. Oh, dark web. Okay, so there's one more after this, but dark web monitoring. This is basically if your username and password is compromised on a remote website. This is all sample information. This isn't. But like, let's just say your password at LinkedIn is breached. They were breached in 2018, I believe. There's several breaches. You hear them on the news all the time. But if your username and password is breached at LinkedIn, that means someone went to LinkedIn's website, a hacker, compromised their site, and downloaded their entire username and password list, which LinkedIn really isn't a very important website as far as your privacy is concerned. They just have your employment history and maybe a photo or whatever. I guess they might get your date of birth on there. I'm not really sure what's on there, personal information. But the big thing is most people will only have statistically 1 or 2 passwords. And that's where it's an issue. So if someone is using the same password at LinkedIn that they're using at your office, then that's how they can really breach your network, because their office account is likely their login, and then they can get into their email. And then, it's just a vicious act. Then after that, they can get into all your stuff because they have your password. So that's why it's very important to monitor the dark web to find out if you've been breached, and if you have, where you've been breached, and when you've been breached, to indicate what password that you were using. So that's another thing to make sure you monitor on a regular basis. Two-factor authentication. So if your passwords were breached, or someone got your password somehow on the dark web, or clicked the link and you filled out a form that was a phish, they still have to have 2 factors of authentication. So first they type in their password to log into your webmail, and then this app that we would put on your phone, or you just download it. We use a product called Duo. You just download the app on your phone, and then it pops up and say, did you really try to log in from Egypt? And then you say yes or no. So that's just another added layer of protection. It's like $6 a month. It's very cheap, and it's a very, very good safety blanket there. And that's definitely something we recommend. And the last thing is the managed antivirus. So everyone has antivirus, hopefully, on their computer. We recommend a managed antivirus. We don't even trust ourselves to, even though we're a large IT company, we can't respond to these virus attacks fast enough. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and a virus hits a computer, or even if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a company that we use, Huntress, that monitors the computers all the time and monitors the real-time alerts. So when an alert comes in, they analyze what happens, and they basically make the decision, is this a real virus? Did the virus get stopped? If it didn't get stopped, they have the ability, just like the MDR, to shut the computer off or contact us by phone or email and just let us know that we shut this computer off because we think there's a threat. Nice thing with this product is it does have ransomware canaries. Basically, that's kind of a coal mine term. If they put canaries in cages, and if a canary passes out or dies, then you know that there's a gas leak or something like that. And that's kind of similar. They just put a Word document, an Excel document, and a PowerPoint document on every computer that they use, and they hide them, so only automated systems can find it. And if those Word documents get changed for whatever reason, they automatically take the computer offline and say there's probably ransomware. So that's a very, very nice little feature, because we can't really monitor live documents because people are making changes to them all the time. But with the ransomware canaries out there, no one will change those files. There was a case a couple months ago where for some reason one did get modified, and it shut it down at I believe it was like 10 o'clock at night. Then we got called, and it ended up being a false positive alert. But it was nice to know that they are monitoring those types of things. So those are the top 5. Again, like, this is a 350,000 foot overview of cybersecurity. There is so so much more. I'll just go real quick over these. And this is still not everything. It's important not to put your staff pictures, or not pictures, but staff names and rank and email addresses on the website. That's how phishing happens. So if they'll go on your website, look for the CEO and get their email address, and then they'll send an email on behalf of that CEO to the rest of the staff to do something. So that's very important, not to put your staff on the website. Use strong passwords. So really quick, going to that, if you use the password love, which is like the most common hackable password, it's an instant breach if you use password love. But if you put in special characters, like, this may, well, uppercase, I'll throw some characters in here. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty secure. But if I put it in this, and I'm using security.org. This one takes 5 years to hack. Now, a more sophisticated hacker may be able to do it quicker. And if you take off a couple letters, that still looks pretty secure, but it only takes 19 minutes to hack. So it's not necessarily the complexity of the password, but it's the length of the password that really matters. So if I do, my dog likes to sleep, that one is going to take a very long time because it's very, very long. I don't know how many years that is, but I'm not going to care at that time if I'm hacked. So even half the time, or a third, or whatever. So I live in Burlington. So this is like a twofold solution. And there's a lot. It's a lot. It encourages the user to write a phrase out that they will remember, so they won't write it down and put it on their monitor like no one does, or hide it under their keyboard or whatever. So that's what we recommend it to do, is just a long password. And again, I'm going a little fast because I'm limited on time. So if you have any questions, you can contact me offline, or you can throw it in the Q&A for chat. Block.om. So basically, if you go to certain websites like CNN.com, this is a CNN.com. So if you go to CNN.com, this will, if you accidentally remove the C, that's .om, and that's Oman, the country of Oman, which is a nation state that harbors terrorists. So it's very tricky. It's a hack that's been happening recently, that they will take large websites and put the make a website over in Oman with .om, like CNN.om or anything .om, and trick people into thinking that's where they're at when it's actually a malicious site. Patching policies, want to make sure that you patch everything. Create an incident response plan. Part of that incident response plan is the response from the employee to the IT, but reporting that they had a breach and what to do and all of that. But you also have to have a plan for the IT department, what to do and how quickly it needs done, and how to escalate that, and what the next steps are. Because it's critical. There's no human error within the first 30 minutes, 60 minutes. It's very important. That's the sweet spot to limit your exposure. You can still get breached, but the breach really starts to occur after day one or after a couple hours, because that's when data starts leaving your network. 24/7 remote monitoring. So just make sure someone's watching your network 24 hours a day. Spam filtering, virus filtering, email encryption. You don't want to send sensitive email out there. Encrypt your laptops if they're stolen. So I was in San Francisco 2 years ago, and my car got broken into. I guess it's the car burglary capital of the world, or however you say it. It's a thing there I didn't know. I put my laptop on the seat, so it was encrypted. So I didn't have to worry about any data loss or anything like that. And that's not a default setting on the computers. You have to actually go through BitLocker and set that up. So you got to make sure that all laptops are encrypted that leave your network. So if they are stolen, the data that's on that laptop is not compromised. And it's just a boat anchor to them. They can't pawn it or do anything with it without that password. Password manager, so that's a nice thing to do. You can use LastPass or RoboForm or something like that to keep track of all of the different, keyword different passwords out there. So if you do get breached in the dark web, your exposure is much lower because you have multiple passwords. You're not using the same password at LinkedIn you do for your webmail. Make sure your backups are fully tested. And again, it's not planning if, it's mainly when there is a breach. It probably will happen. Knock on wood, we haven't had one. But it could happen where you have to make a claim with your cybersecurity insurance and just make compliance with that. Some tips on newsletters to sign up for with the Krebs, the Security newsletter. Those are the top ones out there that you can just watch to see what's going on. We recently had a breach with 3CX that we got notified with a newsletter. We weren't breached, but the software, there was a vulnerability, and we stayed until 10 p.m. fixing everything. No, I think it was like 3 a.m. I didn't, but a couple of the other technicians did, and I think one of the techs fell asleep while he was working on it. We stayed all night and all morning fixing those before the next business day. Password changes. I recommend, it depends if you're regulated, but the general best practice is change. I have some questions. Best practice is to change them every 90 days. And if you're regulated, then it's required. But if you do have password changes that are required on your network, it's good to do, but it's very important to not require complexity, but to just require length, because then people will just put a 1 after it or an exclamation point, or they'll write it down because they'll forget it. So, and then another question I had in the chat was, am I aware of any recent data breaches in Burlington, and how serious was it? Now, I have, none of our clients have been breached. I will go over one, but there are several within the last year, several within the Burlington area. I can't really obviously say the names of the businesses, and they're fairly serious, but they weren't published because they're not regulated. I'll go over one example though. So, but the main thing is if there is a security breach, you need to make sure you have cybersecurity insurance. This is not liability or E&O or any of that stuff that you get from your local travel agent. This is special insurance that's written just in case there's a security breach, ransomware, virus, insider threat, anything like that. And it's completely separate. It's not normally offered. You have to ask for it. So the typical coverage is about 20. I mean, this is going over one of our clients that are now clients that we worked with. It's a typical insurance policy with like health insurance. Their policy was $25,000 for forensics, $25,000 for the ransom, and $25,000 for network recovery, and that would be us fixing everything. Sorry, I had another question. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. And then $25,000 for the litigation and your legal team. All of that, the cybersecurity insurance company will provide you. They will give that to you. They know they have a team of lawyers because they want to limit their payout. So they want to make sure that the forensic team goes in and sees what your risk is. The legal team goes in and they will see what your liability is and your responsibility is to the public, and they will make recommendations. But there's also a maximum out of pocket, just like with any insurance, It's 50,000. This is an example policy. This is kind of on the lower end. I don't recommend them to be this low. And you'll see why in a second here. I'll go over the example. As far as going with an insurance agent, I do not recommend using the, not agent, but company. I don't recommend using the standard like United Fire or Nationwide for these. That's similar to going to urgent care for heart surgery. They're really good at what they do with fire, auto, liability, all of that stuff. But cybersecurity is such a detailed, complex machine. You want someone who is very experienced, and they have that team of lawyers on retainer. They have that forensics team that's ready to go and hit the ground running day one, so you know what's going on. We recommend a company called techrisks.com. I mean, we don't get any kickback from this. I think he gives me a $25 Starbucks card or something. Techrisk.com is one, and there's a couple other ones. If you want to reach out to me, I can get you their information. But that's who we use, TechRisks. But our liability is in the millions, our coverages, because our risk is much higher because we have access to many networks. Regarding the questionnaire, so I had a question: is cybersecurity insurance important, and how much should be purchased? So I would go off of, yeah, it's definitely, it's a 190% important. If you don't do anything with insurance, I would recommend getting cybersecurity insurance before you get full coverage on your autos. It is essential to getting this, and it's not that expensive. Our policy, I think I pay $15,000 a year, but like I said, ours is much higher coverages. But as far as the coverages, I would recommend 3 times the amount of coverages on this that you see here. And this information will be available later. You don't need to frantically write notes. Probably should have said that at the beginning. But for a client that's got 20, 25 people, 3 times as much is what they should on here. Because again, they're separate coverages. So if you have one breach and there's only 10 computers, the forensics teams and the legal department, they're all going to probably be about the same price as a network with 30 computers. Still going to really do the same thing. If you have a network that's more than 100 computers, then you just really need to speak to the insurance agent on what their recommendation is. I have a $5 million policy, but like I said, we're much more risky to do if you're just doing your local network. So if you do have a cybersecurity insurance, the questionnaires are very important to fill out, and this is similar to life insurance. So they ask if do you smoke, do you drink, all that stuff, and they give you rates based on that. But if they find that you lied or misled them or just filled out the wrong thing, they could deny the claim. So it's very, very important to be very truthful on these. Because if you don't have this and you check that box, they will go back, and if they see that the intrusion happened because you didn't have an intrusion detection software, that's the MDR, similar to the MDR, or you didn't have multi-factor, that's the 2-factor, but you said you did, they'll deny the claim. So it's very important when you do these surveys that you involve your IT department. And even though, I mean, subconsciously it's people want to say yes because they know their price is being adjusted based on these questions, or they could get denied coverage. But it's very important to just be very, very truthful and to err on the side of caution on these. If you don't know, just say no, that you don't have it. But again, you can work with your IT department or IT contractor for getting answers to these questions. And 2-factor authentication, I had another question was, has any insurance companies required the use of multi-factor authentication? I've seen a couple that have required MFA or two-factor authentication. When there is a claim or a loss, then that's when they really start dictating what you have to do in order to get the approval or the coverage. But anyway, it's pretty cheap to do two-factor authentication, and again, if you say no, your price will probably be three times the amount that it would cost you just to get two-factor authentication. They're going to just raise your price because your risk level. Now, I have a teenage daughter that, or a teenage son that likes to speed. My insurance rate's high because of that. But if I were to put them on a separate policy, meaning I get two-factor, then it'll drop. So it's the same philosophy there. And this is just a sample. I'm not picking on travelers. I just Googled it and I just found one. So the pages, there's usually pages of information. Anyway, this is an example of a ransomware event that occurred within the last year, 12 months. And this is a regulated institution, so they do have guidelines to follow. They're regulated by HIPAA. They had their own in-house IT department. They had no security plan. They had a few backups. However, those backups were deleted by the intruder. The length of infection was, I believe it was 3 weeks. So from day 1 to day 21, that's when they actually pulled the trigger and locked the network out. So they had 3 weeks of free reign and did a lot of things in the network. They only had a couple computers with antivirus, and the ransom came in just from an email click. Again, that's why you want to educate your users. There's no other security like MDR or managed antivirus or anything like that in place. Our fee and other vendors' fee, we charged about $68,000 in recovery. This would be to wipe all of the computers, put Windows on them, put all their computers back on. We had to go from scratch because they had no backups. This was not a current client of ours. The insurance company required them to find a company like us that does full service. That was one of their requirements for the payout. So they're a client now. The legal department charged them $39,000, and as you can see, if you look at these numbers, the coverages were only $25,000 per location. Loss of business was $10,000. The forensics team, they stopped right at the limit, so that was nice. And they did not pay the ransom. They just started over basically, and they had some cloud stuff, so their limit on the ransom was not so high. So the total claim was $142,000. The out-of-pocket for them was $92,000 because of the $50,000 out-of-pocket maximum. So that's just a sample of what could happen. It could be 10 times worse. It could be 10 times less. Don't know until it happens. So that does not include any personal identifiable or personal healthcare information or loss of reputation or any of that. That's not included in this price. So just one second. So anyway, if you have any questions, you can send us a message. So basically, what do you want? What should you do now? Okay, so I'm right on time. Okay, so you could do nothing and just plan for the breach. Hope for the best. You can go through all of these recommendations that I gave you and hope for the best. Again, this was a 350,000 foot overview of cybersecurity. I mean, this presentation would take 10 hours, and probably then we would not touch it all. Or we provide a no strings attached full network audit, and we would basically go into your network and review your entire network and tell you where your vulnerabilities are and what you need to do to fix them. There's no strings attached. There's no contracts or anything. There is a fee for that, and it covers basically five times as much information than that's on this 1-hour webinar, and also the labor that it takes to do this. I'm doing this for 25 years in the IT world, so and we've seen pretty much anything. This does also include a pen test. I had that question come up. This is the local and external pen test. So that's the technical word, penetration test. And if you sign up or if you ask to do it before June 13th, then we'll provide a 25% discount. Generally, we can't tell you how much it'll cost because it's based on your company and what kind of regulation that you have to comply with. So if you're medical, then it might be a little higher. If you're a bank, it might be higher. If you're just an insurance company, then it might be lower because you're not regulated. So it just depends on that and the business type. So it's generally between $40 and $80 a computer, a network computer. So if you have 10 computers, it would be $400 or $800. So that's how that math works. Again, if you have any questions, just throw them into chat. We also have a free guide on our network. Just go to curesolutions.com on our website, basically on hiring an outsourced IT firm. And then we have an offer that is free, free dark web lookup. So I will give you a free, no strings attached, no money, it's totally free. I'll look up your entire company's domain up for in the dark web, see if there's anything in the dark web, and then I'll tell you what the usernames are and actually what the passwords are that are compromised, so you know what to change. We do have a gift if you're 5 years or longer. If you've been open for 5 years or longer, you actually have a domain name, so it's not at Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail. You have to actually have an actual .com domain, and you have to have more than 5 employees. We will guarantee we will find something on the dark web, or we'll give you a $25 gift card to any chamber member as a bonus. That's how confident we are. Every client out there or every business out there has been breached. It's just you have to be out there for a little while. So if you're a brand new business or you don't have a .com domain, or you've only got 1 or 2 employees, the likelihood of you being on the dark web is a lot less. But if you have all those 3, you've been in business more than 5 years, you have a domain name and you have more than 5 employees. This is basically our challenge. If we can't find you, we can't give you any passwords, we'll give you $25. No strings attached. That's pretty much it. If anybody's got any questions, I think that's all I've got. So I didn't make it more, but so I think that's pretty much all I've got. I thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me and go through this presentation and take cybersecurity seriously. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is sam@curesolutions.com. Or like I said, you can go to the website and fill out that form too. So that's it.
Thank you, Sam, for your presentation today. Please join us for future Success in Business presentations, which will be announced in the partnership newsletter and Friday Facts as scheduled. Have a great day.